What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of the Nati Sports Talk Pod. I'm your host, Ryan Townsend. Thank you so much for joining me today as I look to recap the Bengals and Ravens game from earlier this afternoon. But before we get going, I just want to send my thoughts and prayers out to Dak Prescott and his family. Dak suffered a serious ankle injury, most likely season-ending. Adam Schefter tweeted tonight that he's going to go into surgery later tonight. Just want to send my thoughts and prayers out to Dak. It was a really gruesome injury. He was having a pretty good year up until this point. Just hope the surgery goes well for you tonight, and I hope that the recovery process is speedy for you and you're all healed up and ready to go for next year. But just hope you get better, man. Thoughts and prayers out to you and your family. Today, for the Cincinnati Bengals, if you watched last week, you were pretty excited. This week, if you watched, you weren't that excited. You might have fallen asleep during the game, not going to lie to you. With the way the Bengals offense was looking, you might have been asleep. Suffered a 27-3 loss today to the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. From the jump, man, it just didn't feel like it was going to be a good game for the Bengals. Short first drive. Baltimore goes down and get points. Turnover on downs for us. Baltimore goes and get more points. Turnover. More points for Baltimore. It's already 17-0, just like snapping the fingers. And from that point on, there was really nothing else on the day. I mean, final score ended up being 27-3, like I said, but that was another field goal by Justin Tucker, and then Mike Thomas fumbles. Patrick Queen picks up a 48-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. It's 27-0. Randy Bullock gets a garbage time field goal, make it 27-3. But just a whole day, it just didn't feel like anything was going right for the Bengals. It didn't feel like anything was going to turn around for the Bengals. The only time I really saw something turn around for the Bengals and getting a little bit of momentum was on that final drive where Mike Thomas had that fumble and Patrick Queen took it to the house. But overall today, just from the looks of things, the offense didn't look like the same offense last week. 205 total yards of offense today. 300 less than last week at Jacksonville, 505. Burrow's jersey was definitely a different color today as well. Martindale, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens, brought a lot of blitzes today. Ended up having 7 sacks on the day against Burrow. There's just nothing doing. Pressure was in his face all day. He had less than 2 seconds to make a decision. Ended up turning the ball over twice on a fumble and then on an interception. But just nothing, just like I said, nothing going for us today. Really didn't have any momentum. I mean, the defense did all they could to try and keep us in it. But it's kind of hard for a defense to already be down 17-0, and then offense doesn't get anything going the rest of the day. Defense is literally just the only guys on the field most of the time, just with the whole possession game and all that. But for the most part, for the defense, getting to that, I mean, they kind of held Lamar in check today. Now, Lamar didn't practice this week. He had a knee injury, a little slight knee injury, didn't practice Wednesday. He said he was feeling ill on Thursday. Not sure if they have walkthrough Fridays or not, but the main practices he didn't practice. And I think you could see it a little bit today. Overthrowing guys a little bit here and there. Didn't look too quick. I mean, he was handing the ball off quite a bit. I think he had -4 or -6 rushing yards on the day. I don't think he went positive in rushing. I could be wrong on that, but there was one point I know he had 1 rush for -4 yards, and that was it. They were just spreading the ball around, handing off to Ingram, Dobbins, throwing at Andrews, Brown all day. But the defense kind of held him in check a little bit. I was pretty pleased with that. But on the Bengals side, too, with the offense, man, just when Burrow's getting pressured that much, like I said, his jersey's a different color. Like, no run game today. Joe Mixon only had 59 yards rushing. A.J. Green doesn't help out today. 3 targets, no receptions. Just a lackluster performance today for the Bengals. Nothing really too good about to talk about besides the defense, but hopefully something can turn around next week when we go to Indianapolis, seeing what they had today. But just got to try and move forward from it, see what they can correct next week in Indianapolis, and just see where we can go from there. But my 4 takeaways today from today's game, kind of already hinted on one of them. Defense played great. I'm not going to say any different. I thought the defense played great today. Lamar's stat line, 19-37, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Overall, held the Ravens to 161 rushing yards and 180 passing yards today for a total of 341 yards. I mean, considering that in both games last year. The Ravens ran for probably over 225 yards on us both games and just lit us up on the offensive side. I mean, this is a pretty good day for the defense. Logan Wilson had an interception. Honestly, the Bengals should have had 3 interceptions. Logan Wilson dropped another one, and Akeem Davis-Gaither dropping back into coverage, dropped another one as well. I mean, one big thing I look at the defense today, too, is when we're talking about, time of possession and being on the field for that long, 14 points given up by the defense was in a span of 44 seconds. So I think it was a turnover on downs, and then they go down and score. Mark Andrews gets a touchdown. So that makes it 10-0 at this point. And we come out for the next offensive drive. Joe Burrow got a free runner in the A-gap. He throws that ball up into almost no man's land. I mean, A.J. Green was there, but A.J. Green didn't really give an effort to it. Marcus Peters caught the ball, took it back for a little bit. And then a couple seconds later, they throw a touchdown pass to Marquise Brown in the end zone, 17-0. I mean, just like that, giving up 14 points in 44 seconds. I mean, your defense doesn't really get a rest. Like, if the Bengals had driven down the field a little bit, maybe got something going, then a punt or a field goal, it's not 17-0 like it is that quick in the ball game. And from that point on, I just thought, once it was 17-0 and just seeing the offense's first couple of drives, I felt like that was the game right there. I mean, unless the offense gives you some life and gets going a little bit and gives the defense a break, maybe we've got something cooking. But from there on out, you could just tell that nothing was going for the offense that day, and kind of from that 17-0 point in the second quarter, the game was probably over. But like I said, again, defense with what they were having to do with Lamar and being on the field that much, they really contained Lamar today. Lou Anarumo drew up a lot of good blitzes, a lot of good coverage schemes today to trick Lamar a little bit. I mean, the defensive line probably could have had more than one sack today. I mean, Carl Lawson was back there today against Lamar almost on every pass. Lamar eluded a couple guys here on a couple plays. Actually eluded the ref on one of the plays, actually on a throwaway. But he was moving around a little bit, and the Bengals were giving him everything that they could give him. And I just thought we responded really well today going against Lamar in that powerful offense. But the sad part about the defense, DJ Reader left today with a quad injury. According to Mike Garofalo of NFL Network, it looks like DJ Reader is going to be out for the season with that quad injury. They're waiting on a final examination when they get back to Cincinnati. That's a big loss for the defense considering Geno Atkins just came back today. Him and Christian Covington going to have to man the middle a little bit and just see where we can go from there. Bring some practice squad guys and moving a little bit, shifting around positions there on the defensive line. Probably Hubbard playing in the middle a little bit. If he's okay, because I know he left today with a left elbow injury. We'll see where he goes from there. But huge loss to the defense. Hope it's not as serious as everyone thinks, but hope DJ gets better from it. Second takeaway today kind of goes with Joe Burrow a little bit and the offensive line struggles. But just from watching today a little bit, in the 5 games that he's played so far, I think Joe Burrow needs to start the progression a little bit and needs to start throwing the ball away a little bit more. Now, I'm not going to blame totally on him. There were 7 sacks today, okay? The offensive line did not help him. The cover 0, cover 1 man blitzes did not help. There's 6-7 dudes in his face at a time, but there's certain plays today where I'm yelling at the TV, yelling at Joe, throw it away, throw it away, throw it away. There has to come a time where Joe Burrow just throws it away, eats it, and we live to see another day. Now, don't get me wrong. I like his mentality, trying to make the big play, trying to escape the pressure, evade rushers, and try and make something out of it. You know what I mean? Make a play out of nothing. But there comes a time in the NFL when you're playing a defense like the Baltimore Ravens, okay? You just have to eat it. You just have to take your chance on the next play and live to see another play. Because there's a couple times where he's trying to run away, trying to make a play, fumbles, trying to make a play, just throws the ball up. There has to come a time where he just understands that, hey, I don't have the greatest offensive line in front of me, okay? They're not going to let everyone come through all the time, but when they do let people through and I don't have a lot of time, I've got to escape somehow and just get the ball out of my hands, throw it away, and move on to the next play. Because there comes a point, man, where that's going to hurt you in the long run. Like when you're playing winnable games, like not saying the Ravens were a totally winnable game, but they were a little sluggish, after playing Washington. I mean, I know they beat them by 14, but Lamar was ill this week. He had a slight knee injury, and the Bengals were riding momentum into Baltimore today. But when there comes a time in these winnable games, like Indianapolis, I think is a winnable game, the Giants, the Cowboys, the Texans, when there comes a point for winnable games, we've got to understand a little bit that you got to take your chance on the next play. This play's not going to work. Take your chance on the next one. Don't try and do too much and possibly force a turnover where you could keep a drive going a little bit on the next play and in turn turn the momentum in the game. Defense on short rest possibly. They just got off the field. Now they got to come back on. Just looking at the scenarios a little bit and just learning to throw the ball away more is one of my big takeaways from today. I mean, don't get me wrong. Their play calling today I didn't think was the greatest. They were 3 of 16 on third down. And a lot of those were third and longs. Like I said, Burrow's taking sacks or some fumbles. Like I know there was one fumble where it should have been coughed up again, but Joe Mixon hit it out of bounds. But just growing a little bit, the maturity factor. I mean, he's there, but at the same time, just like taking that next step a little bit and learning to throw the ball away and live to see another day. Third point I've got. Zach Taylor and Jim Turner, you have to figure out the O-line. It's a must. 8 sacks against Philly, only 1 against Jacksonville. We come back against a really good pass rush, a really good defense, 7 sacks today. Joe Burrow's jersey today was basically green on the back of it. Like, I know I've talked about this before, and I know I talked about it a little bit in one of my previous pods. What message are you sending to your franchise quarterback about, there's not an offensive line there for him right now. When he's getting sacked 7 times, it doesn't help your case on offense, doesn't help you establish a running game, et cetera, et cetera. But there has to come a point in these next couple opponents where you have to figure out either a different scheme, you bring in different guys, possibly trade to go get someone. Because looking at these next 4 opponents, you've got Indianapolis coming up. They've got a pretty good defense. The Browns, you've already seen Myles Garrett in that defensive line. The Titans got a pretty good defense. Jadeveon Clowney on the edge. And then the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers, if you play like this, if you show this in, I think it's 4 weeks against the Steelers, they might set an NFL record for how many sacks they get on Joe Burrow. Like, something's got to change, whether you change up personnel, you go get a guy, you change up schemes, bring your tight end sample, Shrek, Ethan Carter, all those guys, like, bring them in, start blocking a little bit, changing up schemes. You got to help out Burrow, and you got to help out your offensive attack because the whole season is just going to be a long and dreadful season when Burrow's not having time to throw, when you have no run game, your defense is trying to do all the work. Like, some point in the season, it's got to be figured out. It's got to be figured out, and you got to get it fixed. No more excuses. Week 5, game 5, no more excuses. Get it figured out. Last point, talked about a little bit last week. Only going to hit on it quickly today. AJ's done. I'm going to tell you right now, AJ Green is done. I think he's done. There's no way. 3 targets today, 0 receptions. There was a video on Twitter. I didn't catch it live in the game. I saw it on Twitter. He was talking to someone on the sideline, and the basis of what came out of it was just trade me. Said to this guy, just trade me. Basically, if you're not going to use me in this offense and you're not going to use me to my potential, just trade me. But in the sense with AJ, man, I mean, he's really not helping his case. Like, we can see from a fan standpoint, just watching games on Sunday, he's lost a step. Okay, he really has. He's lost a step. He's not the old AJ like I've talked about. But just in the sense of him and how his attitude is right now. People are saying, trying to stay positive, AJ's got a good attitude, blah, blah, blah. We're all mad about losing and stuff. But there comes a point, man, where he's just got to turn it on. Like, the first couple weeks, man, was that was your time right there to turn on. Be like, oh, we got AJ back. We're going to start incorporating him. But no, Tyler Boyd's showing out. T. Higgins is showing out a little bit. Drew Sample's going to be a target for him. Joe Mixon's coming alive a little bit. Like, if you want to be the guy, I'd love for you to be the guy. But with your attitude right now and getting hurt still. You're not looking explosive, not looking like your old self. Something's got to change. And honestly, I just don't see that happening right now. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But if I had to say it right now, AJ's done. And look for something at the trade deadline. If they don't get something figured out, if Zach Taylor and AJ don't get something figured out, look for something at the trade deadline. Look for AJ Green to be in another uniform in the second half of the season. Because at this point, man, he's doing you more harm than he is good right now. But just got to get it figured out. If not, see ya. I appreciate your service, man. Appreciate all you did for Cincinnati. But at this point in time, man, get it figured out or it's time to go. But up next for the Bengals, we go to Indianapolis next week. 3-2. They just lost today to Cleveland, 32-23. I think this is a winnable game for the Bengals. I really do. I mean, they have a good defense, but from what I saw today, the offense doesn't look good. Phillip Rivers does not look good. He does not look like a good quarterback in that system. Jonathan Taylor, I think, is a good runner for him. T.Y. Hilton finally came alive for him a little bit today. But definitely a winnable game for the Bengals next week. Get it figured out on the offensive side. Defense, look to attack Rivers and what they can do there. But I'm looking forward to next week, seeing how we can bounce back before going back, welcoming Cleveland at home, and then the Titans and Steelers from there on out. But one game at a time. We've got Indianapolis next week, winnable game for us. Let's just see what we can do from there. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate the time tonight. Looking forward to this week, next week. Be on the lookout for more content, possible article preview here and there. Reds podcast coming soon. Don't know when, but it'll be out here soon once playoff baseball is all said and done with. But thanks for coming out, guys. Appreciate all the love. And have a good rest of your night. See you guys this weekend.